Welcome back to TERF Talk Down Under. I'm Stassja. This is Ange.
How you going?
Good. Bit hot, but it's
bit hot here. Yay! Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's Eve.
I'm coming from you from rainy Queensland, from a tent because it's pouring with rain outside. I'm on one of those holidays that's meant to be fantastic, but it's actually a disaster. Like the car broke down, my glasses flew out the window of the car, and there's no windscreen wipers on the car. It's rained the whole time. And we accidentally turned up at like a cowboy convention, like with, whip cracking cowboy, boot scooting, heavy drinking bogans are having a big New Year's Eve event. And we didn't know. So instead of this sleepy getaway to Queensland, it is packed out with cowboys and, real rough and forward driving and whip cracking and, probably guns and stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty bizarre, actually. And I was going to film outside because there's a really nice backdrop. We're on this 200 acre farm or something like that, but it's pouring with rain. And the humidity is really high, so it's also very hot here but very sticky, and my hair's gone all frizzy. And
it's a completely different culture, isn't it, the cowboy country?
The weird thing, we stopped in where did we stop? We stopped in Toowoomba, in like more closer to the south, and I was wearing a adult human female t-shirt, and I went into McDonald's to get a coffee, and the person who served me was a trans-identifying female, and they didn't even notice. Like they just like really friendly, and I was really friendly, and I kind of felt a bit bad. I thought, gee, if this person knew my belief system, they probably wouldn't serve me. It was a bizarre experience.
Wow, in the middle of Toowoomba.
In the middle of Toowoomba, yeah. But I've certainly noticed since COVID has finished, I have noticed lots and lots and lots of young women with no breasts, lots of them that I've never noticed before.
Oh, it's growing. I have a friend who is a trainer at a gym, and she said, a trans-identified female came in, and she's like instructing her on how to use the equipment, and she asked her, are you wearing a binder? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, well, you probably shouldn't be doing upper body strength exercises with it on, because it compresses your lungs and you can't get enough, like you can end up with broken ribs. And she's like, oh, but I want to. And my friend asks her, why are you so focused on upper body strength? She's gone, because that's what blokes do.
Oh, gee.
It's really out there.
But none of them are I've been around bush women my whole life, and they were, male presenting, but they were lesbians, and they were, they'd cop a few jokes about being a bloke and stuff like that, but they still knew that they were women.
Yeah. And
they still, didn't try to hide the fact that they were women, even though they were more masculine in appearance and in a lot of ways behaviour. But what I'm seeing now is none of these girls identify as female. They all identify as queer.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, people have said that it's the new misogyny, and it is. It's like, what's so wrong with being a woman? What's wrong with being a woman who loves women?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a dirty word now. It's insane.
Yeah. I found an article by one of the queer publications, and it was the top 16 coming outs of 2021, and there were 7 females on that list. Only one of them identified as a lesbian.
That's sad.
The others were queer, non-binary, and the funniest one was, I don't know what label to use for myself. So the label is lesbian, you fucking idiot.
but how can you come out as I don't know what I am? That that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And what an appropriation of the coming out of people who are same-sex attracted. And coming from a place where that was, illegal until very recently, and also, a source of such, bullying and stuff like that. And, a lot of the gays and lesbians came out years ago when society was very unaccepting. And for people to come out now and come out and expect a ticker tape parade for coming out as I don't even know what I think I am, how insulting is that?
Oh, it's so out there.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the 8 males that were on the list, 4 of them came out as just gay.
Yo!
So, it's looks like it's much easier for gay men than it is for lesbian women. It's always been that way. Well, I actually maybe not, but yeah. Yes, so it's been pretty quiet on the news front here in Australia the last week. Just that in between time of year.
Yeah, I haven't. Obviously, I've been a bit out of the loop, but you recommended I watch Kath Deves and Holly Lawford Smith had done a Christmas YouTube, and I did get a chance to listen to that, and they were talking about the Beth Rep case and going into details about what comments got Beth into trouble, and what comments were seen as defamatory. And I had trouble sleeping after listening to that, because I thought, gee, the things that we say, that particular tribunal decided that they were defamatory comments, and it was a bit scary because it was mostly around misgendering. And we've been threatened with already with legal consequences for misgendering, but then on the same token, the same tribunal said that to call a trans woman a man isn't necessarily bad conduct. So I don't, it's such a grey area, and it's so unnerving that there's no clear definition and clear boundaries. And I think the only way that we can find out what the limits of these are is if one of us sacrifices ourselves and ends off getting taken to a tribunal and tests the boundaries the same way that, say, Maya Forstater has had to do, and a whole bunch of other people. But who wants to put themselves through that? Who has the resources to do that? And who wants to cop the public vitriol for actually standing up to the gender rubbish and saying that's a man? Nobody wants to do it, but it seems like that's what it's going to take. And it's really scary to know that at any time you're going to be served with a writ or a defamation order by some litigious trans woman who's got nothing better to do. And the one that's particularly looking at us and may even be watching this video has the resources of a football club, the legal team of a football club acting on their behalf for free. And I've got a family, I can't afford $10,000, $15,000 to defend myself. So
that's it.
But on the other hand, it proves, sorry.
I was just going to say, it could be us, Ange.
It could be us, knowing my luck. On the other hand, it proves how close to the bone we're getting, because they wouldn't be lashing out and making threats if they didn't have something to fear. So, we've said before, particularly in Melbourne, which is super woke, we're getting a lot of attention because we're the first Melburnians to put our faces and our names out there publicly, apart from, say, Holly, and, whatever the consequences. And we're just lay people. We're not, I'm not an academic, neither are you. We're not journos. We're not anyone who has anything to gain from this. We're just normal people doing it. And I think that in itself is dangerous to them because we represent the majority.
Yeah, well, we do. I've got to say, one of the comments that Beth Rep got done for, which made me so angry, it was a woman just, she wasn't really being rude, or she was just stating her case quite calmly, I thought. But in her comment, she used the term penis people. Apparently that penis people was the bit that was considered vilification. I couldn't believe it.
Crazy.
It makes me so fucking angry because they're calling us bleeders and people that menstruate, people with vaginas. And it's such a double standard. That bit really pissed me off.
I wonder the sex of the people on the tribunal that decided these things. You know, if it was a majority of men, it's no surprise that they took offence by, you know, being called men.
Even I think it was a Libra pads or tampons commercial that used the term bleeders, and
I hate that term.
There were complaints put in against it to the advertising standards here in Australia, and they were like, "Oh no, that's fine."
Yeah, I wrote to them and said that it made me think of my miscarriage.
Yeah, good.
But it didn't even get a response.
There you go. Yeah. But it's terrifying, and I'm just going to switch screens and tell you this has just been published on that website, 4w.pub. I think stands for For Women.
Yes.
So this is in Norway. This man has been convicted and sentenced to 21 days in jail for breaching, what's the act? I think it's, hate speech laws. So he got in an argument with a trans-identified male, and they ended up having like a war on Facebook Messenger. And this is what the guy wrote to him that copped him 21 days in jail. This is the translation. Do you really believe that a single human being thinks that you are a woman and not an old man with strange fantasies? That being said, I can't fathom how the authorities still permit you to take care of children. Perverted male pigs who are permanently role-playing that they are small girls have no real destructive power. So I think these are sentiments that we can all identify with.
I've been called worse than that every day. I've got an inbox full of worse insults than that.
That's it. Think about what is said to women online. Rape threats.
Rape, death.
Right.
Yeah. I've had people threaten to rape my daughter because of my views on the trans thing. Got it all in writing. If anyone wants to see it. Right. The horrific things. But the essence of what that man was trying to say is that you're a man with a fetish.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's true.
Yeah.
Is he going to contest it, this gent, or is he in jail?
I'm not sure. The article didn't say, but he got 21 days in prison and a $1,700 fine and $400 in court costs.
Wow. I don't understand it. I do not understand. I'd like to see what their laws look like because I can't imagine that happening here.
Well, as Holly and Kath were talking about, they're looking to strengthen the hate speech laws here in Victoria.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. It's
but then,
fascist. It is fascist.
It is. And once again, we're going to have to prove which is, which has more credibility with the law, sex or gender identity, because that's all it comes down to, because you can't be both.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, it makes me so angry.
Me too. And I get scared. Like, I'm a single parent. I've got 4 kids to support. Like, I'm scared for them that, someone's going to chuck me in the slammer, or I'm going to have to go through another horrible court case. And it just doesn't make sense. And I think, sometimes people might be offended by some of the things we say on here or that we put on Twitter or whatever, but we don't wish anyone real harm. We're not making threats towards them. It's the threats that should be getting, people should be protected from people making direct threats or trying to take away their livelihood or something like that. But instead, it's thought policing.
Mm-hmm. Very scary.
It is scary.
Yeah. I wonder if the Liberals will be voted in Victoria this coming year.
I doubt it. If they are, it will become because of the backlash against the COVID lockdowns. Most people aren't aware of this whole trans thing. It's not on their radar at all. They're not aware that their rights are being taken away. And I notice online that quite often the people that do get themselves in trouble, they have no idea of the extent of this stuff too. They don't realise that they could, be dragged to a tribunal or to court. They think, I think everyone thinks like me.
Yeah.
But in reality,
you just made me think of this funny thing that happened when I first read J.K. Rowling's essay, and I had a blow up with a friend who I'm not friends with anymore. But I messaged another friend on Facebook, and I was like scared because I just lost this other friend. But I just messaged her and said, have you seen this J.K. Rowling stuff? And she writes back, oh yeah, she's a transphobe. I was like, I just gave her a thumbs up and left it at that. But then I started.
Can you hang on 2 seconds? Sorry, I've got to tell a kid to watch out for snakes. Hang on.
I'll tell
watch out for snakes down there.
The rest of
like the little blue ones.
Snakes. Oh my God.
Sorry about that. I was listening.
Where was I up to?
Sorry.
Yeah, so I started posting on my personal page some articles and stuff, and I posted this one about a pregnant trans man, and that was when she messaged me, and she's like, oh my God, I had no idea that it had gone this far. So and she was immediately Team TERF. So from that, what I gather is people hear that J.K. Rowling is a transphobe and they just take it for granted that she is. Yeah. Rather than doing the work and reading her actual article that she wrote, that's crazy.
Well, that's how I win arguments with them. I say, you haven't read it, have you? And they never have.
Yeah.
I mean, who would be there slagging off someone about what they wrote and not read the article?
Yeah. Our guest has just joined the waiting room, so I'm going to bring her in. I'm not sure that she's ever used Zoom before, so could take a few seconds for her to connect.
Oh, there's me. Hi.
But we have joining us Isla MacGregor, who was quite involved with running Women's Speak Tasmania. And also she's done a lot of work with whistleblowers over the years. I believe she's worked on the North. Here she is. Hi, Isla. Can you hear us? Oh, get comfy.
I can't see Isla. Is she there?
Can't you? Oh, I can.
Oh.
I don't think your audio's on, or Isla. But look, I'll say this. Oh, you've got to switch your audio on. Bottom left corner. I can't hear you because your audio's switched off.
I love this.
Sorry, viewers, that we oh no, now we've lost it.
I love the technical difficulties.
It does every episode, doesn't it?
Yeah, I might take it. Oh, and I can't see her, so.
You can't.
I can see you when you speak, so that'll work. So when you speak, I'll see you, and when Stassja speaks, I'll see her.
Okay.
Welcome. How are you going, Isla?
Yeah. Okay. That's a bit. Is the image okay from your end?
Yeah, you look fine.
Fine. Yep.
I don't know how to make it any closer. I've got a green box.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
And now I'm going to have a coughing fit.
Isla,
so professional.
Isla, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I wonder.
Nice to be with you.
Great. I'm wondering if you can give us a bit of background about how you came to the transgender wars and what your involvement has been so far.
Right. Okay. Happy to do that, Stassja and Angela. the first time I became aware of the transgender wars was when Sheila Jeffries came down here to work with us to lobby the state government against the introduction of brothel laws. And yeah, the screen just went off then. And I was absolutely astonished at the attempt by Jade Barker from the Scarlet Alliance to have Sheila Jeffries no platform from speaking at the UTAS Law School and also the Friends Meeting House, ostensibly on the grounds that Sheila was transphobic and anti-sex worker rights.
So the Scarlet Alliance, that's like a sex worker union sort of thing, is it?
It's a pimp. It's pimps, basically. They say they're defending sex workers, but they're actually pimps.
I call them a pimp front group.
Yeah, me too.
They're a pimp front group.
Yeah.
So, and it was the first time that I had met Sheila, and we had an amazing 4 days lobbying various politicians and organisations, including the Tasmanian Council of Social Services. And it was the first time that anybody had mentioned to me the cotton ceiling, and I was utterly gobsmacked.
Yeah.
We were very focused on stopping the brothel laws here, which we actually did achieve. We probably got what are considered to be the best laws minimising the harms of the sex trade in the country. That hasn't changed. While it still does allow buyers to purchase women for sex, there are strong limitations on that. But effectively, there is still no proper oversight of sexual services businesses in Tasmania. It's very much culturally accepted by police and by legislators.
Mm.
So after that, we were very cautious because we wanted to continue working on these sex trade issues. But it became apparent by 2016, it is not possible anywhere internationally, let alone here in Tasmania, to work on the sex trade without the gender lobby getting involved, the transgender lobby getting involved. They're inextricably linked.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Isla, can you try your phone on a different angle? It just keeps going from dark to light.
Right. Okay. How's that?
Yeah, that might keep it washed out, which is fine. Yeah.
I just can't get it there. Yeah. So yeah, it seems to be light at the top, doesn't it?
Oh, it's still doing it. We'll just persevere. Never mind. Yeah. Interesting. My auntie and uncle, I saw them over Christmas, and my uncle used to work for University of Melbourne, and it turns out he was a mathematics professor or something, and he actually sat on some appeals board with Sheila Jeffries at one point. It was just a very funny connection, and he said he was very impressed by her intelligence and had full respect for her. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in. 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah. What was interesting when Sheila was here was that we did put out a media release when she was here, and I contacted a journalist I had worked with at the ABC and asked if she would run a story with Sheila, and the journalist said no, it wasn't news. But because of the no platforming attempt, on the Saturday morning, the day of the public forum, I did put out another media release, hoping that new weekend staff would be on at the ABC, and we got in for an interview that afternoon, because the no platforming thing, in those days, journalists at the ABC realised that that was a matter in the public interest about free speech.
Yeah. And you had another deplatforming attempt made against yourself?
Yes, that was later on, but I'd just like to very quickly run down on some of the other cases that we had. In 2016, NORMAC, Nordic Model Australia Coalition, the national body which I was working with then, organised a forum at Parliament House, and we sent out very widely invitations across the state. And the Tasmanian women's lawyers, I'll just read you what they sent to us on that issue, which was absolutely astonishing, from the president of Tasmanian Women Lawyers. Yeah. Not pass on the invitation that we sent to all her members, and wrote to us saying this: "Thank you for your kind invitation. Given the short notice and the sheer number of IWD events, neither myself nor any members of the committee will be able to attend in any official capacity. Furthermore, given the stance of Wolf in relation to participation of trans women in the feminist movement, I am also unable in good conscience to forward the information onto my members." We took this up with the president, not the president, but I don't know, the committee, and we basically got nowhere. So that was one very important case that we had, whereby, you know, the ideology had permeated all the legal institutions in Tasmania, particularly women's organisations. The other case involved Professor Robert Jensen, which a lot of radical feminists will know. And we hosted him when he was here during the Writers' Festival, I think about 5 years ago. And we had him down here to talk on World Environment Day on the 6th of June. The chair of the forum was to be Dr. Meredith Nash, from the study of social change, and a ideologically driven student named Sapphire Grant complained to Meredith Nash that Robert Jensen was transphobic, and at the very last minute she withdrew from chairing this forum, and there was actually nobody present from the university to welcome Robert Jensen for his World Environment Day lecture. Furthermore, as a result of an article that I wrote for Tasmanian Times, which previously was our free speech online news journal, she threatened the editor of Tasmanian Times with defamation action. And he initially withdrew my article until I provided him with quite a backstory of the legitimacy of our sources of information for claiming the background to why she had withdrawn. There had been several women who had joined the UTAS Women's Collective. All had been denounced and dumped and, you know, edged out. But probably the most significant case of no platforming occurred here in 2018, and myself and Bronwyn Williams had been invited to speak to the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom for their annual Human Rights Week talks. I had previously given one on the sex trade 2 years prior. And the former Anti-Discrimination Commissioner, Robin Banks, was the person who intervened in this forum, and she wrote to the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom secretary with the following words: "I am writing out of concern for WILF, having just seen the invitation to your Human Rights Week event, at which you have Women Speak Tasmania as speakers. I anticipate that the reason you have invited this group is their apparent promotion of women's rights. Sadly, this is not a group that support human rights for all. They have, at present, a nasty and untruthful campaign targeting members of Tasmania's gender diverse community. They do not support the human rights of people who are gender diverse. Indeed, they deny their very humanity and existence." God. The given to this group a platform for their hateful views by Wolf will be seen by many in the LGBTIQ community as an endorsement by Wolf of those views. This is the very real potential to damage the reputation of an extraordinary and compassionate, long-standing human rights group. If there is any way that I can help you to negotiate what I think is a very difficult situation, I am happy to do so. Now, this was written up in The Australian at the time by Matthew Denham. Matthew Denham is a journalist with The Australian who has very consistently covered all the public interest issues concerning the conflict over rights in this state. And he's done a stellar and impartial job.
That is just outrageous. What's Robin Banks? Is she personally invested in transgenderism, or?
She's ideologically invested in intersectionality and diversity and inclusion. She was the primary author of the first discussion paper that was put out on gender self-ID and amendments to the Birth, Deaths and Marriages Registration Act. So she's very ideologically driven on this issue. She no longer is the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner. I believe that she was studying at UTAS in the law school, a PhD on the subject of unconscious bias, which unfortunately I now see as the next step up with policing speech, and not only policing speech, but policing your thoughts.
It must be, you know, for an organisation like WILP to receive a letter essentially saying that you're platforming a hate group. I can imagine at their end that, you know, you'd sort of go into panic mode a little bit, and maybe without knowing all of the facts or the issues that are going on, you just immediately panic and go, oh my God, okay, we'll have to do what they say. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah, that's sorry.
Unfortunately, Robin Banks selected the right person to send her letter to. That was the secretary of WILP. And she had been in the role a long time, was 80 years old. She wasn't the president at the time. The president was very unhappy about the action that Lindley Grant took to no platformists. Other women really wanted to hear what we had to say. It caused a lot of controversy. What I find really ironic is that after the slap in the wrists, in a sense, that Robin Banks got from the expose in The Australian, at the recent attempt by the gender lobby, particularly Councillor Jax Fox, to have the coalition's forum, No Platform, Robin Banks was quoted in the Mercury recently saying that, of course, our forum should go ahead. So she had learned her lesson about writing little private emails threatening organisations' reputations and defaming individuals within our organisation, that this backfired on her, and she wasn't going to let that happen again in relation to any comments that she was to give about the Coalitions Forum in February this year.
See, the only way they get away with it is because they conflate gender identity with sexuality. That when they make a complaint, they say, oh, all LGBTQ people, instead of just the trans lobby, which are the ones that we generally have the problem with. That's the only way that they can, instill fear in people, because nobody wants to be homophobic. But if they separated it and they told the truth and said, this group has a problem with men identifying into women's spaces, for example, then they wouldn't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just going to have to adjust my phone.
I might actually go outside because I'm stewing in this tent because it's not raining anymore. Stassja, do a dance.
Just a moment.
Shocking. It's really this form of modern day McCarthyism. For those that aren't aware, it's worth doing a bit of a Google search on McCarthyism because it's exactly the same practices going on now. McCarthy was a US senator that was, this was just after World War II, and they were clamping down on communism. They essentially outlawed people from holding the political beliefs around communism in the USA. And it resulted in people losing their jobs, being blacklisted, other businesses refusing to work with other businesses. And oftentimes they weren't even communists, but this is so shocking for America to be doing this, because they're all about free speech, freedom of belief.
Yep.
The whole country is based on this reaction to monarchy and tyrannical rule, and they turned into the tyrants with this McCarthyist stuff. And it's the same now with this transgender stuff.
And it's interesting, it's the UK that's coming back at it. It's the UK that are leading the charge. Like, America started it and the UK is fighting back.
Yeah.
The other attempted no platforming we had was at the Friends Meeting House again, and we had a lineup of local speakers, and staffers in both a Labor politician and Green politician's office rang the Friends School and the Friends Meeting House and threatened to smear their name all over Tasmania because they were hosting us. And the clerk of the Friends Meeting House actually cancelled us, much to the horror of a number of Quakers that we work with and support our campaign.
Yeah.
So we actually ended up meeting in a park down the road.
Oh.
And there's been a lot of fear amongst women here about speaking at public forums. Of the very small public forums we've had a few people turn up, but mainly we get contacts from people saying they're too frightened to be seen. So, I mean, I look forward immensely to the Coalition's forum in February. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers, and the attempt to no platform that forum was defeated at a council meeting recently, even though for the first time in the history of Hobart City Council, they are going to be developing a policy to police what sort of organisations get to use public forums and their venues.
Out there. It'll be interesting to see what that policy is and what it looks like. And look, you've done a lot of direct action stuff. Can you tell us quickly about, what you found that works, and also what kind of response you get from the public?
I think that one of the best things that you can do for direct action is to be out in the milieu with a T-shirt on.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to have pamphlets. The Sydney Women Cooey to ABC did a magnificent pamphlet. Stassja, you've done some absolutely fabulous pamphlets. And I know that one of our members has been dropping them off to principals of schools, as well as the Transgender Trend Schools Kit. There are a number of people in Hobart who've been doing chalk graffiti, general leafleting of the ABC.
Stickers.
There's just so many things that you can do. You can make appointments to meet with people, to talk to politicians, to get onto Facebook and Twitter accounts and express your views on things. Facebook is a bit of an addiction for many people, particularly if they're isolated and they're afraid. but really you need to get off Facebook and get out in the streets, get some envelopes, get them sent off. If you're going to be on Facebook, make it a useful time and make sure you're doing outreach. Outreach onto other people's pages who are discussing these things, particularly media outlets, Facebook pages. It's
The
very,
Greens.
very important to have a presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a t-shirt for Christmas. I'll show you.
I love it.
But it's too small.
Oh.
So I'm gonna have to get on a health kick so that it'll fit me.
Well, order another one and bring it over to me in February.
Good idea. That t-shirt, I'll put a link in the description, but it's actually designed by a woman over in Perth, so Aussie based, and she's got a heap of designs. I recommend people check it out. Yeah, support a radfem. Yeah. And this has impacted you personally, your campaigning, Isla.
Yes, it has. Like many people, and I think it's really important to address this issue in the public realm because it's something that hasn't really been touched on. Thousands of people have been impacted by this gender ideology through their friendships and their family members. And it's causing great distress to many, many people. And it needs to be discussed. We know that the horrors and the grief for parents and for young people who have been sucked into this cult that they go through, but it has a far more systemic effect within the community. Many of the women I worked with have lost relationships with brothers and sisters, uncles and aunties, friends of children that they've got. But what I lost the relationship with my daughter. And I'm really very able to speak about this quite with a level of distance now, because I realise that how this ideology has impacted her fits the script for how cults operate. And if you're happy for me, I'd just like to talk about that a little bit.
For sure.
Please. Yeah.
And explain how it works. How it primarily works. A number of people have used a few words to describe this, but I use the 3 Ds, and they are demonisation, denunciation, and disassociation.
Yeah.
So this is what your friends or family members end up doing to you. And of course, they gaslight you. But what happened with me was my daughter, her name is Maeve, works in the theatre industry.
Okay.
And the theatre and the media arts and entertainment industry is deeply embedded in gender ideology and the cult of, what has become a cult of intersectionality. And she moved home to live with me with her partner about 2.5 years ago now, to save money so that she could buy a house. And shortly after she moved home, I discovered that she had publicly denounced me on Facebook.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to read you that public denunciation, because when you hear this, it'll all ring bells for all feminists, because this has likely happened to you, maybe not by your family member, but it's a script, an absolute script. And it astonished me because she was, I think, 31 when she wrote this. She was doing her master's in cultural studies at NIDA. And I just thought that she was a much more independent, critical thinking person. So it's extremely disappointing to see this script come out. And I'll read it to you. I want to make it 100% clear that I do not stand with my mother, Isla MacGregor, or her friend and colleague, blah, blah, in their transphobic, anti-trans, anti-sex worker beliefs and actions, and I condemn their poor quality, below the belt, personal and biased attacks on activists and members of the LGBTI+ community that are masked as journalism but are pure bigotry and discrimination. They are not defending free speech, they are defending hate speech. I love and honour my mother as my mother for many of the things she has done in her life, but on these issues we will never see eye to eye, and I will always stand by my trans, NB and SW siblings in the struggle for their human rights. I will not use the terms TERF or SWERF because I refuse to acknowledge the claim that people who are anti-trans or anti-sex worker are feminists in any way, let alone a radical one. I will not participate in the theft of the beautiful word radical by this toxic and oppressive movement.
Oh, God.
Yes, astonishing. Anyway, the net result of all this was her time here was cut short. We weren't able to have a discussion about it because she said there should be no debate. Every time I mentioned something, she would shut me down. I was, as everybody says, walking on eggshells. She eventually decided to dredge up some past event in her younger years to attack her stepfather, and she left, and I haven't seen her for 2.5 years, and since then she's had her first baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Isla.
This is typical of how people who are true believers react. You know, and we're very familiar with this.
And that aspect of being in a cult where they tell you to, you know, cut people out of your life, even if it's family that don't agree with you. That's what's going on here.
Yeah, I've been a very big embarrassment for her because of her career, and she works with a lot of trans comedians, trans actors, trans media people. She's got friends who work in the ABC. As I say, the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance are the main vehicle for promotion of this very damaging ideology.
And big tech as well, I would add. Yeah.
And big tech.
Yeah.
And big.
Do you know what I find interesting is through my years being involved in this, the only friends that I've lost are women who are allies to the movement. I still have the same transgender friends. I have friends who, in the time that they've known I'm a TERF, their children have transitioned. They know my views, they don't agree with them. But the people who have just gone all out and said, no, I will never speak to you again, have been female allies.
Interesting. Yeah. It really has divided feminism hugely. What do you,
Stassja, the other interesting thing is that people who previously didn't call themselves feminists are now secretly saying that they're second wave feminists.
Yeah.
And there are feminists who are now understanding that having a particular political analysis of class that relates to discrimination against women actually fits into a basket of a whole range of other political theories and issues that we need to encompass and address.
Look, I'll say for me personally, I was a big feminist in my late teens and early 20s, and that was sort of just the dawn of the internet era, really. So I didn't, but in real life, I didn't have like a feminist sort of support group. So it was very hard to be pointing out the absurdity of wearing makeup and just getting pushback from my friends, like, oh, what are you talking about, blah, blah, blah. And it was just very tiring and wore me down, and I sort of gave up on it, and it just, you know, got on with life, got a job, yada yada. And it's really been this transgender stuff that has brought me back to feminism.
Yeah.
So
I always
yeah, I was just
think it. Sorry, the different time frames. Keep going.
I think that it's exposing more women to feminist ideas now, along with, you know, along with the transgender stuff. That what comes up on my feed is anti-pornography and anti-prostitution stuff, which, you know, I haven't been reading for 20 years. So in some ways, transgenderism could very well usher in a real solid third wave feminism. Yeah.
I always say to the young ones, like when they're in their 20s, when they're arguing with me, calling me an ugly old lady, I say, you know, get back to me after you've had a baby and, you know, they've held your job open for you, and then you reapply for your own job and they say, oh, no, it's because of something, when it's actually because you have a kid now. Or get back to me after you've had an ugly divorce. Or get back to me after, you know, the life experiences that make women realise that, you know, it's not some heteronormative utopia. The picket fence is barbed wire, all that stuff. And it takes time, it takes life experience as a woman to realise you are still, no matter what the media says, you are still a second-class citizen compared to most men.
Yeah. Here. Yeah. It's a real shame that there's that generation divide, and young women are sort of taught that older women have nothing to offer, that they can't learn anything from older women. That's
a tactic from the men. The men give them that. It's a tactic because older women are powerful. We've got nothing to lose.
I do agree with you. There's a lot of ageism, but there's also this thing that you know, a lot of gender ideologues have, that, you know, that men have rights too, and therefore we have to consider them all the time, at the same time.
Feminism is
forever. Never lose sight of men's rights, you know.
Yeah,
and
equality.
It's just open slather for male entitlement.
But young women generally, a lot of young women I speak to think that they have equality. They actually believe that they have equal status with men. Like, what? What planet are they from?
I watched a really good documentary that I recommend everyone watches. It's free on YouTube. It's called Childhood 2.0. And that really opened my eyes to what's going on with this generation of teenagers and 20-year-olds. They've been brought up on social media, and it has just completely done their head in. Their perception of themselves is like through this filter of social media. The stuff that they're exposed to online, like watching porn at 8 years old on your smartphone while mum and dad are in the next room, it is full on. And there's all these new sorts of electronic bullying tactics going on as well. And I really think that all of that has really impacted kids.
Yeah, I completely agree, Stassja. And Douglas Murray talks about that. So does Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt, The Coddling of the American Mind. They see it as a major problem for young people that has left them vulnerable to call-out culture, cancel culture, and mob tribalist tactics. And I think that we're up against something really problematic for the future. It's going to be really hard to tackle. But in summary, my view is that and I've only just come to this recently, I believe that the gender critical struggle needs to be broadened, and it needs to come under a bigger umbrella, and that bigger umbrella is freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Because there are attacks on freedom of speech, accountability, protection of whistleblowers, that are all happening at the same time as the gender ideology stuff. And I think that we really need to to broaden our horizons a bit. And I think that we will get more people coming to understand what's happening with the gender debate if we broaden our outreach and come under a bigger umbrella. And fundamentally, as we know, free speech is what we're up against.
Yeah.
For free speech.
We just lost Angela for a minute and we can't hear you. You've got to switch your audio on, Ange. Mercury must be engaged.
Sorry. It went a bit Blair Witch Project then. A bear ate me.
So what's on the horizon for you then, Isla?
Well, I think based on what I've just said, I want to start working back under the umbrella of free speech. I previously was an advocate for whistleblowers for 20 years in Tasmania and sometime nationally. So I would like to see a bit of campaign broadening. I know that free speech organisations, I think in the UK and New Zealand, are speaking up in defence of women's rights. There used to be a free speech committee in Sydney in the 1990s, which was really the heyday of the whistleblower protection movement in Australia. And I think that with the whole range of laws that are being brought in by the federal government to do with surveillance and this national security, I think that we have a much bigger base from which to bring our key campaign agenda under. Yeah.
All right, well, we better wrap it up soon. So thanks for coming on, Isla. Really appreciate your insights and great stories.
Okie dokie, it's been lovely. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Stassja.
Cheers. Just get you to click the leave meeting button. Thanks.
I wonder where that is. This is the first time I've done this. Bye-bye.
Bye. Look, Isla, you're still with us, Isla?
Leave me.
There we go. Oh, now I've lost you, Angela. I can't see you. Oh, God. I think we better end it there, everyone. We've just had too many technical difficulties today. So happy New Year's Eve. We'll see you in the new year. Bye.